Good evening, everybody. Glad that you could join us on a Friday from the safety of your own home. Some of you have been on all 3 nights. Some of you look new tonight, but this is a virtual webinar for the week. We started Monday with a session for beginners. We had a little bit more of an advanced session specifically on beetles on Wednesday evening. And tonight is all about the other options for exhibiting at your county fairs and ultimately the Kansas State Fair. I want to make sure everybody knows how to use the reactions. So if you find the reactions mine is on the bottom of my screen. You can either have a clapping hand or a thumbs up. Very good. Give me a thumbs up if you found it. Excellent. And then give me a hand clap if you've attended an insect spectacular before. Anybody been to the insect spectacular? Some yes and some no. Very good. Great. Now I want to make sure you know where the chat box is, because throughout the evening, we're going to have you respond via the chat box. Tell us one thing you're looking forward to this summer. What are you excited about in the next couple months? What are you looking forward to? Find the chat box there in the bottom and you can type it in there. County Fair, baseball, the 4th of July, yes. School, cousins, summertime is good cousin time. Math. I like math too, George. Seeing friends. Yes, hopefully as the summer goes on, it gets a little more safer to venture out and about and to see your friends again. The end of staying inside, yes. Swimming. Excellent, good. Well, throughout the evening, there'll be a couple different times where we ask you to answer a question, or if you have a question about something that we're talking about, please go ahead and put it in the chat box there. Okay, let me share my screen again. There we go. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the title slide with the green, the blue, the orange, and the lime green. Excellent, good. Okay. Well, I wanted to put this in the slideshow because on a normal year, or what we consider normal, we'd be together in person. And these are a couple of photos from insect spectaculars previously. We had one in Hayes. Last year's was in Great Bend. And it's always a good time to interact and learn from each other. And while we wish we could be together in person, this is the next best thing. And I think this week has been actually it's gone much better than I thought. You guys are excellent on Zoom, and it kind of seems second nature by now. So thank you to the volunteers that have lots of hours putting the presentations together this week. We've got a couple folks on tonight. David presented on Monday, and Matt and Rachel are some K-State graduate students who presented Wednesday. And tonight, we're going to hear from Vicki Wallace, who is a long tenured volunteer who actually used to be my next door neighbor in Pawnee County, and most recently moved to the South Wind District and has been there a couple years now. She actually started the entire Insect Spectacular. How many years ago, Vicki, was that you started in Pawnee County?
That's actually started in Erie, Kansas in 1991. So
Okay.
this would have been the 28th year. So a long time.
Yes, long time, and Vicky's a really important player in making it happen every year. So we owe a lot of thanks to Vicky and all her work for growing the entomology program in Kansas 4-H. I also wanted to give a shout out to Shannon Rogie, who's kind of behind the scenes. Her camera's turned off right now, but she's a program specialist at the state 4-H office, and she has helped collect registrations and kind of some other techie stuff on the back end. So thank you, Shannon. Also wanted to introduce Dale Weishar, who is our state fair superintendent for the entomology project. We want to thank Dale for all he does to make the entomology project grow each year. So with that, I have one slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Vicki. Oh no, that's on the educational exhibit ones. I have one slide I want to cover on the second set, but I will turn it over to Vicki for now.
Okay, again, I'm Vicki Wallace. I want to welcome you tonight to our presentations. I am based out of the Southwind District in Southeast Kansas, and I've been a project leader for over 40 years. As I've gone through the years, I've had a lot of 4-Hers that wanted to participate in this project, but didn't or couldn't for a number of reasons. Some weren't allowed to bring insects into the home. Their parents just said no. Some didn't want to touch insects, or they didn't want to kill insects. Some were handicapped and unable to physically collect the insects and pin them. Some were too allergic to be out in the field or the pasture and something collecting insects because of stings, so they couldn't be safe. So I started looking for a way to be able to include those 4-Hers in this project so that they could learn, because they were fascinated with insects, and finally came up with the collection notebooks idea. Put out a kind of outline. Several of the people that are on tonight looked it over, and the state 4-H office looked it over. We piloted it for 3 years, and so this collection notebooks is a result of that. So let's look at the basics. What is a collection notebook? Okay, first you take photographs of insects. Then you transfer 2 pictures of each insect to a blank document on the computer. You type the identification and collection information below the photos on the document. You print the document on an 8.5, 11-inch sheet of paper. You make a notebook, 3-ring notebook with it. And then you also have to do a special project each year. That's the basics. Okay, I have a busy bee joke for you. Type your answer in the chat box. What did the firefly say to the camera? Any ideas? I'll give you about 10 seconds. See you in a flash? Close. Are you a shutterbug? Good one. I have a flash too. Okay. Okay. How about my flash is brighter than your flash? Okay. The complete guidelines for this project are at this website, kansas4h.org website. Go to the Projects tab and Ag and Natural Resources. Click on the blue word Entomology. Scroll down to the page to Entomology Collection Notebook Guidelines Revised 2020, because I updated it this year. You're going to need to print that document off. That tells you everything for this project, all the guidelines. We're going to go through a lot of it tonight, but there's a few things in there that we won't go through. The equipment you're going to need You're going to need a digital camera, possibly a memory card, batteries for your camera, computer with Windows XP or higher, some computer software possibly, some insect identification books or access to them, printer paper, a 3-ring notebook, dividers, and a hole punch. So we'll go through a little more of that as we go on. Your camera. What kind of camera? Cell phones have improved tremendously since we started this project, and most of those are very easily used, and it's with you all the time, and that's great. You can, on Amazon.com, purchase a macro lens that clips onto the camera of your cell phone. They're about $30. You can go a lot more expensive, but the ones about $30 are just fine. So that's something you could add if you wanted to. You can purchase some small digital cameras, so $30 to $50, or you can purchase an expensive one if you really want to get into the photography end. When I started this, I purchased a Canon PowerShot SX120 for about $170 on sale. It was a $250 camera at that time. They've upgraded that camera, and you can get it on sale usually for about $100 now. It works well. It's small and compact, but you don't have to. You can use the one on your cell phone. That's fine. If you're going to purchase a camera, one with a macro lens is helpful, but not essential. You can use a 35mm camera, but you're going to be developing a lot of film, and that gets kind of expensive. So digital is really better. Okay, how about your computer? Microsoft Office is an application that is usually already installed on the computer when you purchase it. You can use an application in that Microsoft Office suite to crop your pictures, put them on the document, add your information, and print the pages you need. You can purchase some other photo editing software, but it's not necessary. And I'll go into a little bit more on that in just a little bit. Okay, time for another busy bee joke. Where would you put an injured insect? Where do you put people when they get hurt in an accident?
In the hospital.
You're thinking along the right lines. How do you get them there?
By a container, maybe.
Kind of. Somebody says an ant-mobile. That's kind of. How about in an ant-bulance? Not an ambulance, an ant-bulance. Think that work?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Your pictures. Take several pictures of each insect so you have several to choose from. What might look clear through your eyepiece on your camera isn't always clear when you go to try and edit it. You need 2 views of each insect for your notebook. They don't have to be terrific quality like for photography, but they have to be good enough to see markings, colors, shapes of antenna, shapes of legs, and things like that, because you have to be able to identify from those pictures. Okay, just like for if you're collecting specimens, it has to be adult insects. The only exception is if you're going to do a life cycle in the special project section, and you can use the larva and the pupiforms. But for your specimen pages, it has to be adult insects. The rules are the same as if you're collecting for a live collection. The insects must be located in the state of Kansas, or you can go 1 county over the state lines in Missouri, Nebraska, Colorado, or Oklahoma, because insects don't see any state lines. They fly wherever they want to or crawl. So we allow you to go 1 county over. Anything else outside of that is an out-of-state insect. Pictures of those can only be put in the special project section of the notebook. Purchased insects, pictures of purchased insects cannot be used unless it's in the special project section. But you can't go buy a Luna moth and take pictures of it for your specimen page any more than you can go buy a Luna moth and put it in the regular collection. Someone asked Monday night, and I want to make sure I clarify that tonight. Do the insects have to be alive? We usually think of that when we're taking pictures, but you know, I walked out the other night and we had to spray one of our trees because it had so many bagworms on it. It was going to kill a tree. So my husband sprayed it, and I found a firefly dead on the ground that had been in the tree when Rod sprayed, and that unfortunately got killed too. I could take that firefly and take pictures of it. So you can use dead insects, but you can't take a pinned specimen out of your regular collection and take pictures of that and use it for a special specimen page. Do I have any questions on that? Is everybody clear on that, on what kind of insects you can use? Okay, so I'll go on to some picture taking tips. Know how to use your camera before you go out there. Now, I know most of you know how to use your cell phone camera real well, so if that's what you're using, no problem. But if you go get a different camera, make sure you know how to get where you need to be and how to use your flash and things like that before you go out, because the insects aren't going to sit still while you're trying to get it focused. Move slowly. Remember, insects have those big compound eyes on the sides of their head, and they've got simple eyes in the center of their foreheads, most of them, so they see movement very well. And if you move fast or your shadow goes over the top of the insect, that tells them there's a predator in the area and they move. But when you move slowly, it doesn't trigger that instinct near as quickly. So you get closer to an insect if you move slow. Find somebody with a nice flower garden and ask permission to go photograph insects, or around a pond or a lake. State parks are great places to go. When you go in where you have to check in or at the park office, you can ask them, you know, I'm a 4-H'er, I'm looking for a place to take pictures of insects. And they can usually tell you, you know, well, we've got a nature trail over here that's got a lot of flowers right now, or we have an area over there that would be a great spot. They can also tell you areas that you can't go into at the time, because sometimes there is an endangered species that's nesting or other things where you can't go, but they're also good resources to tell you, hey, this would be a good spot, I think, for you to find some insects. Remember, if you go on private property, you have to ask permission. Most people will tell you no problem as long as you won't damage their property or their flower garden. Early mornings and evenings when temperatures are cooler are better times to get pictures of insects, because insects, most of them have to have heat to fly or to move, so they're moving slower. Pair up with a 4-H'er that's going out collecting live specimens and photograph what they catch. Next slide, please. Most good pictures will be taken from 6 to 12 inches away from the insect. You don't want to get in too close because you won't get a clear picture. And if you get more than 6 inches close to them, they're probably going to move. But a nice quality picture is from 6 to 12 inches away. Remember to take a notebook along to write down what you caught the insect on and the date you caught it, because you're going to have that information just like you would if it was a live specimen. You can capture an insect and put it into a container in the refrigerator or a cooler with ice for a few minutes. It will cool it down and it will slow it down. Then you can put it back on what you caught it on, and you've got probably a couple to 3 minutes to get your picture while it's not moving very fast or not moving at all before it takes off. So that's a good way to slow them down. Another one is most insects do not like Vicks Vapor Rub or mentholatum, things like that. So like for ants, make a little circle of the mentholatum or Vicks Vapor Rub on a piece of cardboard or on the cement and put the ant inside that or the beetle or something, and they won't cross that barrier. They'll go to the edge of it, but it will slow them down because they don't like that. Hey, time for another joke.
We might have
What do insects? Okay, what's your question?
Kelly, did you have a question? I just saw a hand raised.
I heard a voice.
Maybe not. Okay, we'll go on.
Okay, you can come back in. What do insects learn at school? Anybody know what subject?
Learn how to fly.
Good answer, but not quite.
Ah.
Any other guesses? Come on, guys.
While they're thinking of answers,
Ah, Louis got it. Mathematics. Good job. You're right.
I had more fun looking for graphics to go along with these jokes.
Okay. In addition to collecting your pictures of insects and your specimen pages, you have to do a special project each year. In those guidelines I told you to print off, there's a lot of suggestions. Some of them are like, make a display on insects at a library for summer reading program, or work with an insect class or scout group and take pictures for your notebook of what you did and who you worked with. I bet a lot of you maybe have some zucchini plants in your gardens. And zucchini bugs, squash bugs are big pests, and you can get the life cycle of a squash bug pretty easy on there. And you can also get pictures of the damage they do to the plant. Catch a big grasshopper and dissect it and take pictures of the parts of the insect. Of course, you can always do pictures of a life cycle. Do a display at a senior citizens home or nursing home. And I know right now you can't do some of these things, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get back into some of those and take pictures of what you did there. Maybe your summer trip and vacation is going to a natural history museum like in Chicago or someplace, and they have fantastic insect displays. You could take pictures of those and explain about that and put that in your notebook for your special project. And this section goes at the back of your notebook behind all of your orders. With that, we're going to look at how you set that notebook up. First page is a title page. It has kind of like your entry card for the fair. It has your name and the county or district you're from, the number of orders you have in your book, the number of specimens. If you're an intermediate or advanced, it has the number of families. So it's the neat thing about in a notebook, you can put some graphics with it. So behind that page, if you've been in the project more than 1 year, you put a page that's telling what you added to your book that year. Maybe you added 2 new orders, 15 new specimen pages. Maybe you improved several pages and got better pictures. So maybe the last year you got told that you had some things identified wrong and you got that corrected, whatever, but that page goes right behind the title page. Then you start with a divider for the first order in your book, and you put the pages of the insect specimens that are in that order, and then another divider for the next order, on through, and then the special project divider at the back. The notebook is added to each year. You don't make a whole new notebook every year. It's added to just like you add to your collection. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay. Then we're gonna go on to the pictures. Photos in the book should all be the same size and go the same direction. The exception to that would be in the special project section. But all your specimen pages, the photos are either going to be 3 by 5 or 4 by 6. And both photos on the page and throughout the book should be the same size. You're going to put 1 insect specimen per page. You can have a page for the male of a species and a page for the female of the species in your book. Just like you can have a male and a female of the same species in your, if you're collecting, like you can have a male monarch butterfly and a female monarch butterfly. But a notebook, a difference is you can include different color forms, and I will show you some examples of that when we get to the end of the slideshow so that you know exactly what I'm talking about there. Okay, there's 4 different classes. There's introductory, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. Amy, there's no slide for that, so you're okay. Introductory, you have to have 10 to 20 insect species with at least 6 orders. Beginning, it's 20 to 60 insect species with 7 orders. Intermediate, it's 60 to 100 insect species with 9 orders, and you have to identify 2 orders to family. Advanced is 100 to 200 insect species with at least 12 orders. And you have to identify 6 orders to family. Okay, I saw the question marks. Explain question marks to me a little more. What do you mean by question marks? Okay, there's a question mark butterfly, yes. What are you wanting to know about it? Maybe a different color. Question marks is not one that qualifies for that, but like I said, I will have some pictures and show you here in just a little bit what I'm talking about and some of the ones. Okay, some special notes. Next slide, please. If you decide to participate in this phase of the entomology project and you're already participating in one of the collection phases, you don't have to enroll at the same level. What I mean by that is maybe you're already into intermediate entomology and you want to try this. You don't have to start at the intermediate class, because if you did, you'd have to come up with 60 to 100 insect pictures all of a sudden. We don't make you do that. If you're already enrolled in entomology, you can start at the beginning level where you only have to have 20 to 60 species. If you've never been in entomology before, you can start at the introductory phase. And a difference then from collections, as long as you meet the age requirement to exhibit at the Kansas State Fair, you can compete with any of the entomology notebook classes, even the introductory. You can't bring introductory collections to the state fair, but you can the notebooks. Okay, time for another joke. What is green and can jump a mile in a minute?
Grasshopper.
I heard something, but I couldn't understand what was said.
Grasshopper.
Okay, somebody's cutting out.
William, don't
I
say.
think they said a grasshopper, but I'm not positive. And that's
Grasshopper.
close. How about a grasshopper with hiccups?
Cricket.
Okay. Picture management. You can
She might have froze. We'll give her a minute to see if she can come back to us. I can cover this slide because it's not super specific to entomology. We'll give Vicki a chance to hop off and get back on. Talking about photo editing, you could purchase some photo editing software. There's all kinds of free downloads anymore. You guys probably know more about that.
English rec.
Yeah, she froze. But your whatever free software that is already on your desktop, or maybe you're working on a tablet now, whatever photo editing software that you have available to you should be just fine to zoom in and crop as needed. Vicki does have kind of a basic guide to cropping photos. If you need some of that information, if you've not done it before and you'd like additional help, please feel free to contact Vicki for that information. And her email and her phone number was on the very beginning of this slide, and we can post it again before we get off. Let's see if she's able to hop on. I know that she might be having storms in her area. Okay, here's her important tips because she doesn't want anybody to lose their work. When you upload your pictures, let's say if you're transferring them from a phone or from a digital camera, she's suggesting on your computer or on your tablet to create two file folders. One of them you want to title Original Insect Pictures. And then the second folder, she wants you to create a folder called Copies or Edited Photos. Something where you can distinguish between the original raw photos that you took and the photos that you're editing or cropping, okay? If you goof and you accidentally delete one that you edited, or you don't like the way you edit it, you always can go back to that original picture file in the original folder. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. There we go. Good. Oh, and Vicki made it back. we lost you for just a minute, and I got the this screen and then the one before it on photo editing.
Okay, good deal.
Yep.
And I want to stress that again, make your original file, don't touch those pictures, only work with your copies, because when you do, you learn the first time you goof, that picture's gone. Photo editing software, when you purchase the computer, again, Microsoft Office Suite has Microsoft Office Picture Manager on it. It's very simple to use. It's a good one to use. If you may already have Photoshop or something on your computer, you can use that. Another one that you can download off the internet is called PicMonkey, P-I-C-M-O-N-K-E-Y. It's a little bit more difficult to use, but it will work. But anything to crop your pictures, that's up to you. If you want to use the Microsoft Office Picture Manager, My contact information is at the end of this slideshow. Let me know, and I will send that to you via email but for a step-by-step. But it's very easy to use. Okay, going on to the information that you're going to put on there on your pages. Go back the other way. Go the other way. Okay, the information that goes below your pictures. The order the insect belongs to. If you're in intermediate or advanced classes, you have to have the family that the insect belongs to in some of the orders, the common name of the insect, the date, locality where the insect was caught. All that stuff is the same that goes in a collection. The notes is something different. And it's the date, locality where the picture was taken, not where the insect was caught. So that was my mistake putting it in there. But notes can be anything that's going to help you. I like to put a couple of things in there. I like to put the host where I caught the insect, whether I caught it on a flower or bush or on the sidewalk or in the sand. And then I put in there the name of the book and the page where I identify the insect from, because you don't do the families until you hit intermediate. You're not gonna want to go back and look through all your books again to find that family name. So if you just have it listed in your notes where you identified it, you can go back and get that. I also like to put whether it's male or female in there, and maybe like the monarch butterfly, I can tell it's a male because there's the scent spot on the hind wing. So that's something I might put in notes. You might put whether it's beneficial or harmful, whether it has one pair of wings or two pairs of wings or no wings, what kind of mouth parts it's got. That's totally up to you, what you put in there. Okay, time for one more joke. What goes snap, crackle, pop? Besides Rice Krispies.
Cricket. Cricket.
I'm hearing
Cricket.
a cricket. Well, that's a good answer. And I suppose you could probably say that.
Cricket.
But the one I was thinking was a click beetle. That's another good answer. Pizza. Okay. Somebody's hungry. How about a firefly with a short circuit?
Hey, can I type?
Go ahead and flip to the next slide, Amy, please.
I'll cover this at the end of the next presentation as
Okay.
well.
I was thinking the next one had my contact information, but that's okay. Any questions here?
Before we sign off tonight, I will take you to the website and show you again where everything is located. If you weren't able to join us for Monday or Wednesday, you can go back and watch the recordings, and then the slides for tonight are there. Everything is posted in one spot, and I'll show you that before we log off for the night. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I meant and some good pages and bad pages here right quick on my screen. I'm going to put them up in front of my camera. This is a page that would be in a notebook. The 3x5 pictures both go horizontal on this page. On this page, they go vertical. Either way works. The majority of notebooks I see are with them horizontal, because if you look really close at these dragonflies, they look kind of funny. When you pull them this way, it kind of distorts the picture. But that's up to you. You can do it either way. But you can see I've got two pictures, and then down here is the information. Now, if you look at those two pictures close, that butterfly's not on the same stuff. Maybe I didn't even get the pictures the same day. So down here where you have your date, locality, and your host, if you got pictures 2 different days, you're going to have 2 different dates. You might say top picture I caught on the 6th of June, 2020. The bottom picture I got the 5th of May in 2019, whatever. But if the pictures are from 2 different dates or 2 different places, you're going to have to note that. Okay. This one's the male monarch butterfly. He has the scent spot on his hind wing. And down here in the information, I have the male. Here's the page for the female. Again, she doesn't have that scent spot, so I know it's the female, and I have that information down there in my notes. So remember I told you you could have, there was more than one color form, you could have more pages. This is the alfalfa caterpillar butterfly. The male is yellow. There is a yellow form and a white form of the female. In notebooks, I could have a page for each one, whereas in the collection, you can only have 1 male and 1 female. One of you asked about the question mark. They're not that different, but it's similar to the goatweed, and the male has 2 color forms, but they're close enough. We only allow 1 male, but the female has a fall form and a summer form, and they are totally different. So you could have 3 pages for this one. And the big winner is your tiger swallowtail. There's a yellow male. There's a yellow form of the female. There's a dark form of the female. And there is a white form of the female. So if you got them all, you could have 4 different specimen pages in a notebook, or you could only have 2 specimens in your collection, 1 male and 1 female. Does everybody understand that? If you do, give us a thumbs up. Okay. How about that picture? Do you think it'd work for your notebook? If I didn't know a little bit about insects, I wouldn't know that that was a monarch butterfly. That one doesn't cut it. If I'm judging, I'm gonna make a comment that you can't use that one. And several of you said no. Yay! How about this one? Where's the insect in that picture? This is a little tiny mite in the tail of this wasp right here. So if I'm going to take pictures of that, I'm going to have to use an arrow of some sort to point that out, that that's what you're talking about on that picture. Okay, how about that picture? Will it work? Nope, it's not clear enough to see the insect well enough to identify. What about this one? I've got a male and a female. If I'm going to use this picture, I'm going to have to get, number 1, another view, and number 2, I'm going to have to point out when I say which one's male, point it out, which is going to be the smaller one over here, and then for the female page, I'm going to have to put an arrow to that one. And finally, one more. If I can get it here. Top one's a female, bottom one's a male. Can't do that. And if you look at the print quality, I'm running out of ink on this one, so you need to make sure you've got good ink in your printer before you print them off. Okay, any questions before we move on to educational displays?
Vicki, I did post your contact information in the chat box. So if anybody wants that, you can get it there. And I believe it's on the title slide in the next presentation.
I saw Tessa said she had 63. Good job. Okay, give me a second here to move some things around and switch over.
While she's getting that ready, here is her contact information on the screen. I just posted it in the chat box. So know that you can reach out to her with any questions.
Okay,
This is the slide I want.
educational display.
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is a slide I just want to quickly sort of distinguish between the two, so we have a better understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish, right? So a 4-H project is what we use to teach you the hands-on skills, and we hope that you sort of discover a passion or a spark, like we call it, and you can develop your interest in that certain area. So obviously for tonight, we're going to use the entomology project as an example. This is something, you know, ideally you join 4-H the beginning of the year. Can anybody tell me when the 4-H year begins? Yeah, Taylor.
October 1st.
Yep, October 1st. So you enroll in 4-H, you select your projects for the year, and the learning takes place from October all the way through September. Okay, it's a year-long project. The project exhibit that you to put on display and to be evaluated by a judge. We hope the exhibit is a good example of what you've learned and how you've grown in the project throughout. Okay. It results from the year's worth of learning. So you have a project, entomology, and then you have a project exhibit. And I think sometimes we get really lax and we say the project is what we bring to the fair, right? But in reality, we couldn't possibly bring everything we've learned and done all year long. So I just wanted to kind of clarify between the two and get you to understand that an exhibit is kind of the best of your work, or just an example of one thing that you really enjoyed learning. And Vicki's going to talk us through some of those exhibit options.
Okay. Before 2019, there was only one form of educational display you could take to the county fair and then go on to the state fair. And it was in the one standard display box. Okay. Everything had to fit in there. Well, that has changed. We have some exciting new ways that you can make an educational display. Several options that can go to your county fair and onto the state fair. And one of the biggest differences here is it's going to be judged, or should be judged, by the same person that's judging your entomology collections. So they should have a better knowledge of entomology and what kind of information should be in that project. So it should be a little more even and a little better judging on it than if you're competing with every other poster or everything else at the fair. So let's look at some of the things that are new. You can do posters. Okay, my screen, there we go. Okay, there's some examples. Okay, another one you can do is trifolds on a standard size trifold board. And if you do trifolds, you can have some things sitting on the table inside the trifold, is in the one. You can do slideshows. You can do dioramas.
Okay, I'm not sure who's drawing on the screen, but if if you could stop drawing because it's kind of interfering with people's view.
Okay. You can do dioramas. And there's a lot more options, and I'm going to give you some more ideas a little later and show you them, and also some ways you can use them besides at the fair, especially for some of you older kids that need some leadership and citizenship in the project. So what is an educational exhibit? Well, the dictionary says it's a setting or presentation of something in open view. That doesn't tell us a whole lot, does it? So in simple terms, it's some type of display that teaches the person looking at it about a topic. So it's a visual display. Visual is the key. Your audience is going to use their eyes to look at your display. So it needs to have some eye appeal. The information has to be presented in an artistic way. That doesn't mean you have to be a great artist. It just means that you have to use some artistic display elements. Some of those are coordinating colors, shapes, stickers, letters, graphs, pictures, insects. You can make them 2D or 3D, some natural materials. Okay, I saw a question, but I didn't catch it quick enough to read what it said.
Can you exhibit?
What was the question?
Can you exhibit a collection and a display?
Yes, you can. You can enter any or all of the 3 different phases of the entomology project. You can do a collection and a photo notebook and an educational display. You can do 1, you can do 2, any combination that you like. One thing I might clarify there, if you're doing an educational display that we're talking about now, it is entered in the same phase as your collection phase, whereas the notebook could be in a separate level, separate class. Okay, fonts and lettering on a visual display has to be easily readable. The fonts is another name for the printing. Fonts below there are kind of hard to read on a display, and you never ever use cursive. If your county fair only has an insect collection entry, you need to go to your extension agent and ask them to get your county fair rules updated to meet the state fair guidelines, because they should be allowing that. That's state guidelines, and it should be there.
I would say
And
that.
maybe, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this was new last year, so there is a chance they just happened to miss it. But inquire about it now, and they should be able to fix it for you.
Mm-hmm. And it may not get listed in the fair book itself, but be allowed to be brought in. Okay? You're welcome, Garrett. You can use a couple of different types of lettering or font as long as they complement each other. We've got Ariel, Lucinda Sands, or Montserrat. They're all fairly similar. You can use them and kind of interchange them. But Ariel and Hottenschweiler, or however you pronounce that one, Hottenschweiler does not work well with other things. And again, cursive is hard to read and it doesn't work well at all. So don't use cursive. Just remember that people are looking at this. Usually they're 2 foot away. So your letters need to be large enough to be easily readable from 2 to 3 foot away. The poster there is very good. The picture of this etymology box is taken from far away, like 4 or 5 feet. So it doesn't show very well, but the lettering in that box was easily readable. Colors. Careful use of colors is really important. Light colors like that yellow on a poster for lettering, a lot of times it's hard to read. Coordinating colors like light and dark blue or light and dark green, maybe tan and maroon, those things work well together. As you can see in that poster next to illustration, there is some colored paper behind the wording, and that helps the wording stand out, and it helps emphasize the wording in the picture, so that works really well. It has a yellow background, a colored base that complements it and works great, but neon colors are used very sparingly. They grab your eye and draw it to whatever is there with that neon color, and you don't want to distract from your total display. You might have something on there that you need just a little arrow to point it out that you could use a neon color for, but otherwise steer clear of neon colors. Okay, resources. Anytime you're going to do something for education, you need to research your topic, just like in school, right? And you've got to cite your resources or tell where you got it. If you're going to use websites, remember we can't use Wikipedia because anybody can change what's on Wikipedia at any time. But you can go down to the bottom of a Wikipedia article, and a lot of times there are some sources listed down there. Go into those sources. You can use Wikipedia sources because if it's a source, they've had to vet that source, and it's okay. For a website, you need the title and then the author's name from the website. Maybe you're doing something on chemicals or how chemicals affect insects or something, and you could go interview your extension agent or the guy at the co-op or the man that does the spraying for agriculture. So for those interviews, you need the person's name and their professional title. If you use something for a book or a pamphlet, you need the title, the author's name, the copyright, and the page number. You can put just a little block down in one corner of your educational display with all your sources on it, or if you have a piece of information in your educational display, you can put the source for that piece of information in smaller print right there with it. That's up to you, but you always got to cite your sources. You can still do standard display boxes, but remember, it has to be like in this picture so that the box is displayed horizontally. Show them the next picture, please, Amy. There we go. It can't go in the box vertically like this. And a lot of people don't understand why, but when we get these boxes to the Kansas State Fair, they go in a set of display stands. And there's a tray at the bottom that the box sits down in and then leans back onto the stand. And then we put a rope around those stands to hold the boxes in there so that they're a lot harder to knock off the stands. When they're up and down like this, they don't fit in there well, and they can get knocked off there very easily and whatever work you've done is destroyed. So make sure if you're going to use the standard display box type of educational exhibit, you get it in there right. Okay, slideshows. Needs to be put on a jump drive for evaluation and with one printed copy for the judges. Put the zip drive and the printed copy in a manila envelope along with a paper containing your name, your county, district, your address, class of etymology you're enrolled in, and seal that manila envelope and put your name maybe on the outside of the envelope. That way there's no chance of that zip drive getting separated, and we don't have 15 zip drives sitting there trying to figure out whose is whose without plugging them all in. Slideshows should be no more than 15 minutes long, but we hope to have the capability at the state fair to put those on a computer and have them playing during the fair to help people going by see those slideshows and get more people interested and go, wow, these kids have got it going. Okay, so the other types of displays, materials, you don't have to purchase a lot of stuff. Very expensive. I've seen some made with scrapbooking materials that they spend a lot of money on. But you can use things you have around the house. Mother Nature provides a lot of materials, so think outside the box and be creative. And I'll show you a little more of that here in just a minute. But you can spend a little bit, you can spend a lot. That's up to you, but you don't have to spend a lot of money on these. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, Amy, if you want to stop the screen sharing, I'm going to pull some things here and show them on my screen. Okay, this is a diorama that I made. It is on the monarch butterfly. It's made with a shoebox that has an attached lid because I wanted some height for it here to get my plants in for my monarchs. I do a lot of different things, so I had most of this stuff for scraps. I had to buy the white flower for milkweed because I couldn't find anything out in nature at the time I had to make it. And I had to buy some blue salvia type stuff because I didn't have that. And I printed off my pictures on my computer. Everything else is stuff that I had around in scrap or I found. The water is just paint on the box. The mud that's down here is bark from our Osage orange trees. I've got sticks and then just scraps of flowers that I had. I have under $3 in this educational display. And I've got a male and a female butterfly. I've got a pair mating. I've got a female laying eggs and eggs underneath some of the leaves. I've got caterpillars back in there. I've got some puddling down here in the mud. And then I've got chrysalises and monarchs hatching out. I have an entire life cycle right there in that little box. To go along with it, then I've got some information that tells what's in the box. I plan on using this in when I go to some elementary schools and teach. So I have some coloring pages on the life cycle of the monarch butterfly that I can give to the teacher to use to follow up with what we've learned. And I would attach those to the back of the box to send to the fair for education. Okay, I saw a question pop up, but I didn't catch it. What was the question?
The question, well, we've had a couple. I had suggested when you were talking about slideshows, kids are phenomenal at creating YouTube videos or iMovies, whatnot. And instead of kind of a old school slideshow, they could also put together, a video or a short film on some aspect of entomology if they wanted to. And they asked if it also needs 15 minutes or shorter, and I said yes. And then the question is about kind of similar earlier. Their local fair book does not have anything about posters or videos or alternative exhibit options. So I am going back to look and find the sort of description that we sent out to staff, what was it, over a year ago, about adding that in. So I did find the
You
one.
might need to send out a reminder to agents.
Yeah.
That's available for them.
Yeah, I did find a link to the article we had over a year ago about adding the introductory class to your local county fair. So I did type the link to that, but it's a good reminder. I will put something out to all of our agents across the state if they've not added that option yet.
Okay. I'm going to set this down and pull another thing here. Okay, I am sure you guys have made mobiles before in school for something. And I help teach a high school biology class, and we do mobiles for prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes are single-celled organisms. Eukaryotes are multi-cell organisms. And so when this was assigned, I knew right away whatever I chose was going to be an insect. So I picked praying mantids as my eukaryote to make my mobile about. And on my hanger, I've got the picture of the praying mantid. And then on one side of my cards, I've got a little different praying mantid, and I've got the classification of animals on it. Then insect classification. And then the rest of the things down here, we had to have the different types of organelles that are found in the cell of a eukaryote, or the cells of an insect. This is a hanger. The string on this comes off the feed sacks my husband gets. I printed the pictures off on our printer. We do have a color printer, so I printed color ones, but wouldn't have to be. And the information, and just glued it to note cards. And then I had some scrap poster board. So that's another way to make a educational display for the fair, or to take for an exhibit in your classroom. Some of you older ones, it would be something fairly inexpensive to take. Maybe the teacher's going to do something on ladybird beetles, and you could do something in a mobile with different types of ladybird beetles and the life cycle of things. But that's going to catch kids' attention. It's a fairly simple one to do, and something you can do a different type of educational display. Again, remember, one of the cards I have down here on the bottom has my resources where I got my different information. So don't forget that in any type of display you're going to do. Okay, I'm going to pull a poster. Okay, my printing at the top of this poster is easy to read, right? What about down here at the bottom? I'm within a foot of my computer, but can you read that? Can't. That's because I use this to teach with. And On my WASP here that I have enlarged, I have the little colored dots. They're numbered, and the numbers correspond to what's down here. So when we teach about insect hearing in a class, this is one of the resource things we have in the classroom for them to do a scavenger hunt on. And they have to find different things where different insects hear and where their hearing organs are. I could send this to the fair, but I'm going to have to send a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that explains how it's used. It won't there because if it's graded just as a poster or judged just as a poster, it's going to get graded down because you can't read this down here. But if I put the explanation with it, and as a judge, I know how you're using it, then that's what I'm going to look at, how you're educating people. But posters is another one. This is one that I use for other places. I send this to schools, and it's got the anatomy of the insect all over it. Trifolds were one. I'm going to point my camera across the room. Okay, Amy, can you guys see the pennants from there, or do I need to go closer?
Nope, we can
You
see.
see them? Okay, they should be reversed. It should say beautiful ladies, but I don't have room to hang them well here in my bedroom. So I have a class coming up this fall in a elementary room. They want to learn about ladybird beetles. So I made the pennants to hang up in the classroom. The pennants are made out of the feed sacks that my husband gets corn in for his cattle. I could get grocery sacks and do the same thing, or manila envelopes. I didn't have any red or blue wrapping paper, so I bought a roll of red wrapping paper to make my letters, because on the other side of that it says delight, dragonfly delight, because I'm going to do something with dragonflies with you here in a second. But since I'm going into an elementary school, I went and purchased a plastic box at Walmart for $2. Took some blue duct tape, made a board on the lid. I bought packages of round wood discs. They're 6 for $1.99 at Walmart. I printed off pictures of ladybird beetles, 6 of each one, and decoupaged it to the wood disc. So I can go in and introduce ladybird beetles to my elementary kids, and they can play tic-tac-toe. The box works as a storage container, but it also works as the game board. Inside there, I have a fact sheet about ladybird beetles and a coloring page of the life cycle of ladybird beetles and some just pictures of different types. That will be another way you could make an educational display. I have under $5 in that whole thing. I could give that as an older 4-H'er to a teacher to use in the classroom. I could do the same with a garden club. My high schoolers love to play tic-tac-toe, so I will probably take it in there, and once they have their assignment for the day done on learning about ladybird beetles, they can go play tic-tac-toe and not disturb the rest of the classroom. But I would want to see an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper explaining a little bit on how you were going to use this educational display to go along with it. But that's a different way, another thing you can do. I told you on the back of that there's Dragonfly Delight in blue. Okay. We got something in this box. Rod got something, I don't know. But I'm going to spray paint it black. And then I'm going to make some dragonflies with just round dots, kind of like this, all over it, and cut some circles and make a beanbag toss board so that, again, I can have the kids play a game with it and then teach them about different types of dragonflies and what dragonflies do. Okay? I already have paints, but a can of black spray paint's 99 cents. A package of, I've got neon colors, I think it was $5. So for $7 maybe, I've got another type of educational display I can use multiple ways. Especially for you older 4-H'ers that need some leadership. These are things you can take your educational displays and do. Some of your materials again. Cedar trees work very well to make little bushes or things in your displays. Right now, dock is blooming out in the pastures and gardens. It dries as pretty red, but you can spray paint in any color you need if you want it. All kinds of grasses. Queen Anne's lace and wild carrot is blooming right now. They're a good source. They would make milkweed. When I needed to make my diorama, they weren't blooming, but you can make milkweed out of that really easy. So again, you can use all kinds of resources to make these displays, not have a lot of expense in it if you don't want to. Any questions?
If you have a question, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it into the chat box. Okay.
Okay, if you need help or have questions, you know, you've got my contact information. I would be glad to help you. Or if you need something identified, you know, if I can help with that, send me a picture. We'll try and help you with that if you need it.
Vicki and David and Dale, they are extremely knowledgeable and very helpful. So if you do not have a project leader in your county for entomology, please reach out to them because I know they'd like to hear from you. Shown this on the other evenings, but I also wanted one more time for anybody that isn't able to be on Monday or Wednesday, I wanted to show you where you can find the slides from tonight or any of the other resources and recordings. So this is the homepage to Kansas 4-H. If you hover your mouse over the project tab, choose that very top one, Ag and Natural Resources. And then boom, you'll see entomology right at the top of the page. You'll select entomology. And here is the entomology project page. Okay, there's lots of different resources to help guide your project learning throughout the year. For a lot of you younger learners, these videos are brand new. David made them for Monday evening webinar, but they will continue to live here on our website and they're uploaded to YouTube. So those will be extremely helpful to you if you're getting started out. We've got the links to where you can find the Teaming with Insects curriculum. If you keep scrolling down, there's just more and more helpful resources. A lot of tips on exhibiting. If you want to make your own display box, there's label templates. If you're going a selection route, there's different scorecards for the various types of exhibits. They're all here. In the upper right-hand corner is where you'll find a link to this event-specific webpage, right? The Insect Spectacular. And a lot of times we have information about hotels and lodging and the schedule for the event, which, you know, this year looks a lot different since we went virtual. But all of our slides from Monday, Wednesday, and tonight can be found right here. They're just PDFs. You can open those up and print them if you can. And And then underneath each one is the recorded webinar. So if you click on this link, before you click on it, copy and paste the password, because once you go to this link, it will ask you to enter this password. And you can watch Monday's webinar, or down here, you can watch Wednesday's webinar. Again, before you click on the link, make sure you copy, right click, copy it, and then you can paste it in when you go there. It'll ask you for the password. They also had a really great detailed handout on beetles that went along with Wednesday night's webinar, so check that out as well. And then here are tonight's slides on educational exhibit options and the collection notebooks. And then again, right below here is where tonight's recording will live. So if you've got friends that couldn't be on tonight, or you know somebody that might be interested in getting involved with the 4-H entomology project, please feel free to send them these links and direct them here. It'll be the one benefit of having a virtual event is that we can record them and it kind of lives on forever. You can go back and watch them anytime, so that's kind of nice. Questions for any of, for Vicki or Dale or David, or anything in general about the webinars this week? Okay, I have a fun little activity. Those of you that can turn your video on, go ahead and turn your video on. And instead of giving a thumbs up, or instead of giving clapping hands on the reaction, we're gonna do the next best thing. We're gonna clap our hands Brady Bunch style. So everybody go ahead and put your hands up like this.
I got it.
Towards the side of your square, facing, so my boxes are out. And I know everybody's boxes are in different places. David, do your palms out. And you're going to clap with the person next to you, right? So start clapping.
Oh, clap.
Yay.
Oh, clap to the next person over. There you go.
We had to get creative the last
Have to do both sides.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, I can't thank Vicki and David and Dale enough for all. You could go up, you could go down. They've put a lot of time into getting these webinars ready and putting the slides together. And so thank you very much for making this successful. That's okay, Garrett. You don't have a camera. That's okay. But oh, the train is coming through Kinsley. I'm gonna have to mute myself. Very loud train. That's all we've got for tonight. If nobody else has any questions,